Good morning, Stampers. Happy Friday. Today I am going to create a card, a fun shaker card using the Stitched Triangles dies, and I'm going to combine it with the Beautiful Autumn bundle because I'm loving, loving, loving this bundle. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Canada, and every Friday at 11 a.m. I come live to you with a crafting project. All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. So let me slide this aside, pull out the pieces that we need. All right, so I think what we'll do to get started is let's do our stamping first. So I'm using a thick Whisper White card base. It just measures, it's a standard size card base, so it measures 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Good morning, Kim. And I'm just going to fold that in half, and then on the inside, I'm going to stamp the greeting that says, "My heart is grateful for you." I love this greeting. I love the fonts in this Beautiful Autumn stamp set. So I'm just going to stamp it in Memento ink, right in the center. And then I'm going to take the little maple leaf that is from the Beautiful Autumn stamp set and stamp it in terracotta tile. So we're stamping the inside of the card first, but there's not a ton of stamping on the outside. So we're just getting all of our stamping done first, and then we'll go ahead and assemble our card. I'm just decorating the inside just a little bit, just to make it pretty. Here we go. And then while I've got my maple leaf, I'm actually going to stamp the envelope as well. And I think I'm going to do it all along the bottom. Thought that might be fun. Just going in all different directions, all the way across. It's always nice to get a pretty envelope. I mean, it's wonderful to get a handmade card in the mail, but it's even better when the envelope is pretty, right? Okay, so the envelope is done. Now, I've got a piece of terracotta tile cardstock, and I'm going to stamp one maple leaf on that, and then punch it out using the coordinating dies, or coordinating punch, sorry. This Beautiful Autumn comes with, as a bundle, with 3 coordinating punches. So you get a maple leaf, an oak leaf, and a cute little acorn. Okay. So that's all the stamping that we need to do for this project. The rest is all done with dies and a few other things. Okay, so I have a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of Pretty Peacock cardstock, and I'm going to use my Stitched Triangles dies, and I'm going to use the largest of the tall, thin triangles, and I'm going to cut a hole right about there. So I'm going to leave enough room at the bottom so that I can fit at least 1 row of our foam adhesive strips because we're making a shaker card. Okay, so that's something, if you're replicating this card, that's something that you want to keep in mind. And then I've got a piece of basic black cardstock and one of our adhesive sheets that I've cut down to size. I'm going to peel off the back and add that to my black cardstock. And what we're going to cut out of this one is, these are the well-written dies, and I am going to use the word thanks, if I can find it. Here it is. So that is going to get cut from that. And then I've done some pre-cutting already, so I'll show you what I've done after we cut these pieces. I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, or the Big Boss as I like to call it. Good morning, Joy. Good morning, Barb. Good morning, Christine. All right, so I've got my magnetic platform on here, Now, because this does have straight edges, I'm going to put this kind of at an angle because I've mentioned this before. I do not like running straight edges through my Big Shot. I find that sometimes they don't cut properly and it just makes a terrible noise. Actually, let's move this over just a little bit. Okay, so I'm keeping in mind that I need to put the foam adhesives all the way around my window, so I've got enough room for a foam adhesive strip all the way around. So I'll run that through first. That's still pretty straight. Let's rotate this just a little bit more. All right, we'll feed that through. And then we've got a stitched triangle and a window for our shaker card. So we'll set those two pieces aside. Now I'm going to do the word thanks. And I don't know if this is something that's all in my head or what it is, but I have noticed that my words cut better if the words go in this way. If the words go in this way, sometimes I find that there's spots that just don't cut all the way through. So that's something to keep in mind too. Okay, and then I want to emboss this piece here, this piece that I cut the window out of. So I'm going to bring in my regular platform. So this is platform number 1 because all of these platforms are labeled or numbered. And this is our old style 3D embossing folders. So they were called, at that time, they were called dynamic embossing folders. So these are the really, really thick ones. I'm going to put that in so that my stripes go vertically because the stripes kind of, or the pattern kind of goes vertical, or yeah, vertical. And I'm going to close that up. So for the sandwich layer for these old dynamic folders, you just need one plate number 3 or one of your clear plates. And remember, when you use this machine, you always feed the fold in first. Good morning, Mary Liz. Good morning, Elaine. All right, so now we've got a piece with some gorgeous texture to it. Okay, so we can slide this guy out of the way, and then I'll bring in all the other pieces that I had pre-cut for you guys as well. Let's pop this guy out. So the adhesive sheets, now I've created a sticker, so this is going to save having to use liquid glue to stick it down. Makes it much less messy. Okay, so the pieces we've got. This is going to be the negative space for our shaker. This I'm going to set aside. This I'm going to use on a different project. I thought that this would be cute as a Christmas tree. You could put some red rhinestones on there and make a cute little Christmas card. Okay, and then the other pieces that I have, you guys saw me stamp and punch that out. This is cut from, this is a die set that was available last year, and it is still available. It's called the Gathered Leaves dies, so it's this collection here. So these 3 leaves actually cut and emboss with one pass through. So I did that with the copper, or the brushed copper metallic cardstock from the mini catalog. I've got a smaller triangle, so I used the largest one to cut out my window, and then I think it was the second largest one. Yeah, second largest one, and this is cut from terracotta tile. And then I've got one other one that I cut from Seaside Spray, and it's the second smallest one. So I've got 3 of those, and I'm going to kind of create a pattern. All right, so those are all the pieces, and then the other thing that I have is a window sheet. This measures 3.5 inches, but it doesn't need to be that wide. That just happened to be the thickness. You could probably go for 3 inches by 5 inches. And the first thing I'm going to do before I forget is I'm going to adhere that to the back. Now, oh, here it is. So you can use mini glue dots for this. You can use Snail, if you're still using snail. I'm using our seal adhesive. This is just going to go right on the back. I always, whenever I make a shaker card, I try to do that first because I don't know how many times I've made a shaker card and I'll put the foam adhesive on the back and then realize that I forgot to put the window sheet on. So of course, when you stick that to your card base, everything's going to fall out, right? So I try to make that the first step. Okay, so now we've got our little window. And good morning, Amy. And we are going to, let me think here. Let's decorate this first. Okay, so I've got my stitched triangles, my pieces. Now my color combination, it's kind of an interesting color combination. I knew that I wanted to create a shaker card using these, and I wanted to do something kind of, well, with the beautiful autumn, so kind of fallish. But I was looking at what I had to put in as the shaker portion of the card, and I didn't have a ton of options. My best option was the woven threads sequins. So I chose colors from that. So I chose 3 of last year's in colors. So Pretty Peacock, Terracotta Tile, and Seaside Spray. And they were the 3 colors that kind of felt at the most fall. I mean, this one definitely feels kind of fallish. The other 2, not so much. But they worked well with the Terracotta Tile. So that's where my color combination came from. Okay, so we've got that. And then we're going to flip this over. And now we're going to bring in our foam adhesive strips. So you can do this with dimensionals as well, especially with the edges, around the edges here. You can keep those and use those for shaker cards. They're great. You do want to make sure that you have adhesive all the way down with no holes. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around, making sure that there's no gaps. The contents of my shaker are a little bit thicker, so it's not too bad. Where you have to be really careful is if you're using like some glitter or some beads, anything like that, you really need to make sure that you've got no gaps. Otherwise, that's when your filling starts to fall out. Okay, so I've gone all the way around my shaker, and then because this portion is going to be popped up, I'm also going to add dimensional adhesive around the edges, and I like to stick with the same adhesive. So I wouldn't want to turn around and use dimensionals on the outside because they may be just a little bit of a different thickness. So by sticking with the same adhesive, you know that it's going to be even or level all the way across. I'm going to put another piece right here. Okay. All right, now I'm going to bring in my card base. So I've already done my stamping on the inside, and I'm going to have a look at where this is going to sit. So it's going to sit up right there. So you can, before you put your window sheet on, you can use a pencil and lightly mark it if you want. But I find that, especially when you're using something as large as this, I find it's pretty easy. So I'm just going to dump some sequins on here. And the other thing that I'm going to do, which I didn't do on my sample, but I noticed when I went to take a photo that I probably should have. Okay, so I'm going to slide this down a little bit. And then I'm going to bring in my multi-purpose glue and just stick a few sequins down. And I'll show you the reason why in a minute here. It doesn't matter what color it is. I'm just putting down the first thing that I pick up. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Maybe we'll do a couple more. I'm going to slide this out of the way. see here. Amy says, anytime I make a shaker card, the shaker contents don't shake. Are you using, what are you using as your shaker contents? And what are you using as your, like, to cut it out? Is it big enough? Or is there maybe too much in the shaker? Okay, that should be good. All right, so now I'm going to peel off the backing on all of these. Or maybe it's, depending on what you're using as dimensionals, maybe it's not dimensional enough. Maybe it doesn't pop up enough, or your contents are too high, and so the pocket is too tight, or the window is too tight. Okay, I think I want to add just a few more sequins here. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have, they're all in where your pocket's going to go. You don't want them spread out. Now this is probably the, excuse me, this is probably the trickiest part of the whole thing, is trying to get this piece on straight. All right, I think that looks good. Okay, so now we've got this cute little shaker pocket. And the thing is, when we put it down, so when we stand the card up, like if you're somebody, you were to give this to somebody and they were to stand it on their mantle, by sticking a few of those up, especially because this is such a large area, it looks like it's got shaker all over the place. So I'm going to finish this card and then I'll bring in the first one that I made and kind of show you the difference. So let's move these out of the way. Okay, so now I've got my copper leaf. You use what? Oh, okay, that's static. Oh, that's a good suggestion, Barb. Yeah, it could be static. Maybe take a bounce sheet and wipe your window sheets and your cardstock first before you assemble them. Maybe that might help. So I'm just using my fingers just to give these a bit more dimension. I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of the copper leaf. And this is going to go right about there. So I'm making sure it can stick off of the pretty peacock cardstock, but you don't want it sticking past the card base because then it will not, it won't fit in the envelope. Then I'll add this little leaf. I love these little leaves. Okay, and then grab my grating. This is going to go over top, just trying to make sure I get it on straight. That looks good. So there we go. And then, you know, I can't do a project without a bow, right? Gotta add a linen thread bow. Okay. And we'll just do a little dot of multi-purpose glue right here. So I love this card for a couple reasons. First of all, I mean, shaker cards are always fun, but this card, it almost has like a modern feel to it. Like it's way different from my usual card design, but I love how it turned out. There we go. But it also has just a somewhat fallish feel, but it's not full on fall because the color combination isn't necessarily a fall color combination. Oh yeah, your embossing buddy. You think your embossing buddy would reduce the static? I'm not sure, Amy. Okay, so there's the envelope that we did. There's the shaker card and then the inside of the card. Okay, so now I wanted to, let me tap this. Okay, so there's that one. And then here's the first one that I made. So let me tap this. So this one, I did not adhere sequence. So remember, I took my multi-purpose glue and adhered a few sequins so that you'd always see sparkle, whether it was standing up or whether it was laying down. This one I did not. So that serves the purpose of spreading out the sequins a little bit, and you'll see that some of the sequins kind of sticks where the multi-purpose glue was, but that's completely fine. It just adds more of that sparkle or that shaker element all through that triangle. Whereas this one, when it's standing on the mantle, everything is going to sink down to the bottom. So that's a little tip for you, especially if you're doing a larger pocket. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I do have a little incentive with a purchase. So I have some card kits left from this month's card class. So if you place an order with me before the end of the weekend, you will get the card guts. So basically these pieces for 4 different cards. And I will email you the tutorial, step-by-step tutorial with measurements and supplies and everything for these 4 cards. So, and I've got a limited number of them. So I think I've got 5 extra that I cut. So if you want those, you can place an order online using this host code. And as long as the order is $50 or more, then I will send you a card pack. All right. And if I need to cut more card packs, I will cut more card packs. That's not a problem. All right. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you next week, and have a great weekend. Take care.